Hey y'all, hopefully you're watching this around the 20th of May. May 20 being the World Bee Day. The United Nations ratified a motion that was enacted by Slovenia in December of 2017, making today International Bee Day. May 20th, 1734 is the birthday of Anton Jansa. I don't speak Slovenian. He is apparently, they call him the father of beekeeping. Obviously beekeeping goes back much further than 1734. I know the Europeans were keeping bees throughout the Dark Ages, and prior to that, the Chinese have been keeping bees for I have no idea how long, but it is definitely an age-old art form. So today being International Bee Day, Steve Robbins, who has a YouTube channel called Steve Plum Wine, decided to put together a playlist of different channels that he watches that keep bees, and have everybody do a short 5-minute video commemorating World Bee Day. And so this is mine. Honeybees and wild bees perform about 80% of all pollination worldwide. A single colony can pollinate 300 million flowers in a day, which is what you're looking at here. Is the entrance to one of my 5 bee colonies. Statistically, they could pollinate 300 million flowers in the course of a single day. I don't know if mine are that active or not. They might be underachievers, I don't know. Of the top 100 food crops that humans consume, 70 of them are pollinated by bees, which provides roughly 90% of the world's nutrition. In the last 4 years, the chemical industry, mostly Bayer and Monsanto, which are now the same company, have spent $11.2 million on information campaigns to try to dissuade people from believing that their chemicals are one of the problems facing collapsing bee colonies today. May not be the only factor, but it is a large factor. They wouldn't be spending $11.2 million to try to make people believe that they're not the cause if they weren't part of the cause. As an example, in 1947, it's estimated that there were 6 million managed beehives in the United States. In 2008, that number was 2.4 million, which was a 60% drop in the number of beehives. Obviously, that doesn't take into account wild hives, but it's also been found that many of the natural and wild hives have also been suffering from collapse. Habitat loss is continuing to increase. I see it a lot here where I live. There's constantly huge swaths of land being bulldozed over and turned into housing, condominiums, apartment buildings, office space, parking lots for more shopping centers. There's also not nearly as many people these days that are planting natural flowers to their areas that tend to bring local pollinators. People just don't garden the same way that they used to 20, 30, 40 years ago. And to bring this really close to home, I was able to find a couple of numbers on the internet that January 1st of 2018, there were 8,000 colonies in Virginia. And by April 1st of 2018, 3 months later, 1,000 of those colonies had been lost. That's an amazing number. What is that, 12.5%, I believe, in 3-month period of time? Now obviously that's coming out of winter, and that is the most difficult time for hives to survive in the climate that I live in here, because it starts to get wet and then get cold, and if there's moisture in the hive, the bees can't stay warm. That cold air hits and they have no way to warm themselves up, and they end up dying in many cases. Anyway, I suppose the reason for this video is really just to try to convince more people that they should consider keeping bees. I'm sitting here 3 feet away from my hive right now. You can see the amount of activity going on. I'm in shorts. I'm not wearing any protective gear. The bees are not bothering me in the slightest. They generally do not bother people at all. I don't know anyone who's ever been stung by a honeybee, with the exception of when they're working inside the hive. I've been stung several times working inside the hives, but at that point the bees have a defensive posture because you're inside of their home. So you would expect them to defend their home, defend their queen, defend their honey. But generally speaking, the worst they'll do is fly at you and bounce off of you, trying to scare you away if you're walking somewhere near the hives and they think you may possibly be a threat. But there's really nothing to worry about with these guys. They fly all over our garden. They range roughly 6 miles in every direction away from our property. They don't cause a problem for anybody. They're very easy to keep. They're not terribly expensive to keep. You do need to feed them a little bit of sugar at certain times of the year. You do need to manage the hives. They do take a little bit of time, but for a money outlay, it's a very cheap hobby to get into and very beneficial. Without them, or natural bees in your area, you're not going to be able to pollinate your crops and grow food successfully. Some crops don't need them, but all of the ones who do need pollinators, without bees, you're likely not going to get much of a yield. There are other insects that pollinate as well, but they're far and few between. Honeybees are by far the most prolific and productive of all of the pollinators. You can see here I've got 5 hives. When they're at their peak, if there's 30,000 bees in each hive, I've got 150,000 bees here on my property. They are out doing a lot of work, doing a lot of pollinating, and as a side benefit of that, I get to take honey off of the hives, obviously leaving them enough to get them through the winter to survive, but I'm able to pull that honey off and utilize that myself, or sell that for a little bit of income to continue to purchase what I need to keep my bees going. And it's really just a great hobby, and it's terribly important for the environment as a whole, and definitely well worth learning about and possibly getting into. If you're watching this channel, you're most likely into some sort of self-sufficiency, homesteading, farming, gardening, raising of animals, raising your own food, so on and so forth. And if you're not already into bees, it's really something that I think you should look into. The equipment's easy to find used. All of the equipment that I have here is used. Picked it up off of a combination of Craigslist and Facebook for small amounts of money, really. And if you capture swarms in the spring, you can even get your bees for free. You can get with a local bee club, and a lot of times you can get, people will be able to give you bees off of splits for very cheap or for free to get you started. It's really something that hopefully you will look into, and I know that I enjoy it quite a bit. In fact, I think of all the things I do here on my homestead, the keeping of the bees has probably become my most favorite thing. And I have been at it for just under a year at this point. And yeah, I just found it to be really rewarding, and I really enjoy it a lot. All right, well, thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and we'll see you again soon. I'm Andy.
I'm Tia.
Thanks for watching.
Don't forget to subscribe.
And hit the bell icon to subscribe so that you get notifications when we post new videos.
And don't forget the thumbs up.
Thanks.
Thank you.